What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thank you for watching. Boy, do we have a doozy for you all today. This is a video nobody asked for, nobody wanted, but it's one we all need, in my opinion. Today, we are going to be doing a head-to-head comparison on two of the cheapest pistols ever known to mankind. Also, probably tied in first place as the two most memed and criticized pistols on the internet. And rightfully so. Of course, I am talking about the Hi-Point C9 and the SCCY. This one is gonna be a train wreck. Now, we actually just did a video on the SCCY a couple weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. It was my very first time ever shooting one of these. And it's an interesting video, I'll just leave it at that. But the pistol is the DVG-1 9mm and the color is the Dragonfly edition. And you guys came up with quite a few nicknames down in the comments. I saw Joker gun, Barney gun, stuff like that. Whatever you want to call it, I think we can all agree it is an obnoxious looking pistol. And our other contestant for today's video, the 9mm Hi-Point C9, also commonly referred to as the problem solver.
This is my problem solver right here.
Hi-Points have become like classics at this point. Some people love them, some people hate them. Some people really love them, maybe a little bit too much. I'll be honest, personally, I have had very good luck with Hi-Points over the years. I don't like them, but I don't think I've ever had a single issue with one. So both of these pistols are around 200 bucks or less, which is why they are so common. It's also why they're so heavily criticized, because at that price point, you're just bound to have problems. So today, we're gonna settle this once and for all. Hi-Point versus SCCY, the two cheapest, most hated pistols on the entire planet. Which one is the worst of them all? Let's find out. All right, we're just gonna go ahead and shoot both of these guns. We will start with the Hi-Point. I haven't shot this one in probably like a year. The last time I used it, I shattered the pistol grips, broke the magazine. It was an interesting video, so we'll see if it still works. 8-round mags. That is hilarious. I just had a malfunction in the Hi-Point. I've never had that before. First round. It was just a failure to feed, but it picked up the round. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and blame myself for that malfunction. I'm not sure what happened there, but I feel like my glove kind of snagged the slide when it was reciprocating, so we'll blame that one on me. I don't think that was the gun. It felt weird in my hand, you know? All right, fresh magazine, 8 more rounds. It's just so clunky. It feels like it's not gonna work. Every time I load a magazine and rack the slide, it feels like it's gonna hang up. I think that's just what Hi-Points do. The trigger is also interesting. It is very unpredictable. Like, you can't really tell when it's gonna break. But it's working. You know, I kind of hate everything about Hi-Point except the reliability. It feels terrible, it's clunky, heavy, awkward, ugly as hell. But it does work, which I guess is the most important thing. See how fast we can run through a magazine here. I can't believe I hit that target. I wasn't even really aiming at it. Again, cycled flawlessly. The weight is another thing I wanted to talk about. So the recoil impulse with the Hi-Point is actually really good. Like, it doesn't have hardly any recoil. It does have a high bore axis, so it's kind of an awkward recoil impulse, but it doesn't move hardly at all, and I think that's because of the weight. I would bet the Hi-Point is twice the weight of the SCCY. I wish I had a scale out here, but it's definitely heavier by a lot. Last full mag that we got for the Hi-Point, at least for now. See if I can hit that bowling pin down there. Got him. All right, Hi-Point worked, ran flawlessly, except for the very first round, which I have to imagine was my fault, not the gun. So we'll blame that one on me, and for now, the Hi-Point is working perfect. What do you think? I would imagine that was my fault, that first malfunction, because it didn't do it again after that. And when I shot it, I could feel it. It almost like snagged my glove on its way back. So obviously that would stop the gun. And the SCCY. By the way, I'm just gonna start referring to this as the SCCY because SCCY is too much of a mouthful. So if you saw our last video, you might remember we did lose the rear sight. We're not able to find it. I'm not worried about hitting targets. If I do, it's a bonus, but we're just gonna shoot some rounds through it and see if it works. We did have malfunctions in the last video, mainly light primer strikes. So let's see what happens today. Hit the target. I can kind of line up the front sight with the back of the slide. Uh-oh. Already had a malfunction. And that one, I don't think, was induced by me. Let's see. Yep. Light primer strike right out of the gate. Damn. Don't know if it's focusing on that, but the firing pin barely hit that primer. All right, let's see if we can get a second primer strike on this round. Okay, it worked that time, and it locked the slide back. So, same issues we were having in our first video. Light primer strikes. Let's shoot it some more. One benefit of the SCCY is they give you an extra magazine, so I don't have to load it every single time. 10 more rounds. Oh my goodness. I mean, dude, it's barely touching the primers. That's so weird. It's like sometimes I want to look at a shell casing that fired. So you can see the difference there between a round that did fire right here and a round that did not fire. Those primer strikes look completely different. So just so you know, it's not the ammo, it is the firing pin. Another. All right, that was 2 or 3 in one magazine. All right, we got one more magazine. All right, we got one more magazine with the SCCY. I think we've kind of proven the point. It definitely has issues with light primer strikes. I will say it could just be this gun. It doesn't mean every SCCY is gonna have light primer strikes. We're kind of thinking there's something wrong with the firing pin channel or the spring. It's obviously an issue, but it could just be this gun. There it goes again. Yep, light primer strike. Light primer strike. Okay, this is getting pretty bad at this point. Just to show you guys, extremely light primer strike. Like it's not even getting close. And there's such a big difference between the rounds that go off and the rounds that don't, so. Put these back in the mag. Okay. Fired both of those, it just didn't lock the slide back, so. That's the SCCY. Same issues we were having in the first video, light primer strikes. That is all the malfunctions we're having though. As far as cycling, it seems to be working well. All right, we're gonna go ahead and do the same drop test with the high point that we did with the SCCY in our last video. I'll go ahead and cut to that footage now so you can see how the SCCY performed. We've got another one in the chamber. Let's see if it goes off. I'm gonna go ahead and launch it. Nice. Looks like it might have landed on the muzzle. I would say it's drop safe. Got a 9mm blank. Put it into the chamber. And once again, I'm gonna use a rubber mallet and just beat on the back of the slide and see if we can get it to go off. The safety is off, by the way. Go ahead and switch hands. All right. I was beating the crap out of that thing. Let's go ahead and toss it. Did not fire. Nice. And by the way, once again, it is a blank. I said that in the last video, and apparently some people didn't hear me because they kind of freaked out when I tossed the gun like that, but it's landing 20 yards away. It's, you know, a safe test to do. All right, don't know where it landed. That's our blank. Looks like the high point is drop safe, at least this one. I wish I knew where it landed. It looks like it might have landed on the back of the slide, which would be perfect. That's kind of what you want. Either that, I'm not gonna point the gun at my cameraman, but there's also some dirt on the muzzle, so it could have landed on the front or the back. Either way, that was a pretty big toss. Another win for the high point. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put another magazine through it after our drop test, just to make sure it still works. I ejected the magazine with my finger, but the high point is running flawlessly. All right, guys, I think we've already kind of proven that the high point is definitely the more reliable of these two pistols. I will say if the SCCY didn't have light primer strikes, it would honestly be pretty dang reliable. We've only had a couple failures to feed. Other than that, it's been 99% light primer strike. So that could just be an issue with the one I have. Either way, I'm only here to bring you guys the test results. But next up, I want to push the reliability test a little bit further and introduce some elements. First up, we have water. Both of these pistols are submerged underwater. Magazines are loaded, chamber is loaded. We're gonna pull them out and see if they fire. Of course, it picked today to get freezing cold when I have to put my hands underwater, but it's also starting to rain, which is cool. Go ahead and start with the SCCY. Pull it out. All right. Once again, the SCCY ran flawlessly, and the high point. Uh-oh. We had a failure. Looks like the high point failed to feed. It's actually pretty jammed up too. All right, took that round out. All right, so I ejected one round, it fed the other two and fired them. The SCCY wins the water test. It is pouring down rain. Well, I gotta be honest, I'm a little bit surprised that the high point failed the water test. I did not see that coming. It looked like it could have been a magazine issue, like the round kind of popped up and went upright instead of feeding into the chamber. Either way, it is what it is. Next up, we are gonna try dirt. This is just regular dry dirt that I got from the side of the hill. We're gonna submerge both of these guns in that, and we'll see what happens. We'll go ahead and start with the SCCY. I've got 5 rounds in the magazine. Chamber around, and we've got it in the dirt. Gonna sprinkle some on top, shake it around a little bit. Hopefully you can see how dirty that thing is. Here we go. Whew. I knew that was gonna happen. All right, the SCCY passed the dirt test with flying colors, and I'm covered in it. Whew. Okay, same thing with the high point. Chamber around, put it in the dirt, sprinkle some on top. And once again, you can see how dirty that high point is. Let's do it. Another failure. Same exact thing that happened with the water. Again, it almost looks like the magazine is allowing these rounds to slip out the top and go in upright. It doesn't look like it even tried to feed into the chamber. But the first 4 rounds, it did cycle flawlessly. I almost wonder if I need another mag. But I'm also not here to give the high point any passes. It did fail the dirt test and it failed the water test. And so far the SCCY has failed nothing, except when you're firing it in perfect condition and it has light primer strikes. And for the final test, I went ahead and dumped some of our water into the dirt and turned it to mud. I'm really not looking forward to this one. Once again, we'll start with the SCCY, chamber around, and it is fully covered in mud. This is gonna suck. It worked, and I am covered. It did not lock the slide back, which honestly happens even when the gun is dry, but there it is. It cycled all those rounds and ran flawlessly. I'm surprised. And the high point barely chambered around. Submerge it in mud. Man, y'all better hit the like button on this video because this is torture. Here we go. All right, fired the first round. It didn't feel like it chambered another one, and it did not. Another failure. That was a live round. It's just not making it all the way into the chamber. So you can see it's getting stopped up. And before the round gets fully seated into the chamber, the slide is hanging up. So it looks like we stopped the high point. All right, guys, I definitely need to get home and take a shower. I think these pistols also probably need a shower. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you my opinions on all of this. As far as just shooting the gun, I definitely prefer the SCCY over the high point. Like I've said, I think high points are the most uncomfortable handguns ever designed. It does have less recoil, but it's so awkward and uncomfortable to shoot, it doesn't really matter. I also prefer the looks of the SCCY. Again, this color is not a good example, but it just looks like a modern, regular semi-auto pistol, whereas the high point looks like a melting Glock or something. I'm not even sure what they look like, but in my opinion, there is nothing uglier and more uncomfortable than a high point C9. Now, as far as reliability goes, which is definitely what's most important, I'm still gonna say I would prefer the high point. I know that might be confusing because it did fail the water, dirt, and mud, but the SCCY has failures when it's clean and dry. It did make up some ground once we got it dirty because then it just decided to run flawlessly all of a sudden. Maybe that's the trick. To get a SCCY to run well, you've just got to get it super dirty. I don't know, but I will say those tests are kind of extreme. It's not impossible, but it is unlikely that your gun would ever end up fully submerged in water, dirt, mud, sand. I think it's much more important that your gun runs well when it's clean and dry. And when it comes to that, the high points seem to be pretty dang reliable. Now, just to be clear, I would not recommend either of these, but if you only had 150 bucks for whatever reason, I would say the high point is probably the better choice. They've developed a decent track record at this point, and they seem to be pretty reliable little pistols, at least for the money. That is not the experience I've had with the SCCY. I know a lot of you guys will probably comment and say yours work well, and I'm sure they do, but you're only as good as the worst product you put out, because if you go to get one, how do you know you're not gonna get a lemon like I did? So whether it's a lemon or this is just how they all work, I have not had good experiences with the SCCY. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Let me know what your experiences have been with each of these pistols down in the comments below. I'm sure there's gonna be quite a few opinions on this one, and I'm excited to read them. So, as always, if you did like the video, please hit the like button for me, guys. I would really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.